Hello and welcome to Silver Age Silver Screen, a podcast where we watch, discuss, and review film adaptations of comics, anime, and finally, video games. We're finally doing that, and other stereotypically geeky works. I'm your co-host, Casey Jarmes.
And I'm your other co-host, Riley Thorpe.
As you can see from the title of the episode that you clicked on to get us to play this, we're talking about the Sonic the Hedgehog movie that came out
last year.
Wasn't it back in February?
Yeah. I thought it came out last year.
It was supposed to come out in November of last year,
right.
Plus this has been a very long year.
Right. Yeah, so much has happened.
This is a more recent film for us than normally. Like, of the other three we've done so far, I mean, one was 2017, but the others were from 1989 and 1990/92, depending on how you count it. The interesting thing about this being more recent is that the two of us knew each other when the trailer for this first came out. And I, remember our conversation. The trailer for this film, which I'd like to talk about for a minute,
right.
Came out April 2019 and got mixed reviews. I have a quote here from Gita Jackson, who's a reporter for Kotaku, who called it a blight upon this weary earth, which it was, but that certainly was a trailer.
By mixed reviews, I'm sure you mean everyone was hating on this trailer and Sonic the Hedgehog's design in particularly as much as humanly possible on the internet.
Oh god, yeah. Riley, what was your reaction to the trailer?
Honestly, I was in a state of shock. I had this feeling of this movie is going to be so ungodly terrible that it's going to be great.
Yeah, I know. I was so excited after seeing that trailer. It played Gangster's Paradise and had a bunch of bad jokes, and Sonic looked like a nightmare. It was shaping up to be one of the worst films of the year, and I was pumped.
It fully embraced every worst thing you could possibly do. There was a lot of people who were like, God damn it, this is going to ruin my childhood or whatever. And I think you and I agree. We were sitting there guys, come on, you're not getting this. This movie has so much potential in how horrible it looks from every possible angle. Sonic's design, the writing of the jokes, the soundtrack even. Gangster's Paradise is a great song. It's a great song, but Sonic the Hedgehog? What?
I get what they were going with. Sonic the Hedgehog, that is a big 90s thing, and just cash in on 90s nostalgia with Gangster's Paradise, even though it doesn't fit the film at all.
It kind of thematically fits Sonic the Hedgehog in a way because in the game, Sonic is a bit more snarky and egotistical and kind of more cool. That's his thing. Basically, it was Super Mario Brothers versus Sonic the Hedgehog, and
Sega wanted to be the cool one.
Because Super Mario was the family-oriented.
Yeah, he's like a middle-aged plumber who's nice and friendly, so let's be radical and have this crazy, totally cool hedgehog who's very 90s, who has attitude, and also he moves fast, which works because the Genesis had superior scrolling speeds to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, which was part of the core gameplay of Sonic the Hedgehog.
And then in the 2000s, we have him turn into a were-hedgehog and kiss an anime princess.
Oof, yeah. But seriously, we can joke about Sonic the Hedgehog, but Sonic the Hedgehog is a very good design.
Yeah.
He has a very long, interesting development history, which I'd recommend looking up. Sonic the Hedgehog went through dozens of different designs before they settled on it, because Sega knew they needed to have a really good character to be their mascot. And the design worked and was beloved, and they changed it in that original trailer to this abomination with, muscles and, not wearing gloves and having beady little eyes and teeth and a human face.
They went way too realistic with the anthropomorphism of the character, because Sonic the Hedgehog, he's a blue humanoid hedgehog.
He looks like a Golden Age cartoon character.
Right,
he has
exactly.
The gloves and the big eyes.
But he works because he's a cartoon character. The first design of his character in the first trailer, they try to do so many different things. They make him an anthropomorphic hedgehog man. So he's like got the proportions of a human with some features of a rodent. So I felt like they tried to make him cute, which doesn't fit Sonic's character at all. Yeah, you're right. He's got the beady eyes, the proportional limbs in the body. It is pure uncanny valley.
And there is an alternate universe where this entire review is just us ragging on how this movie was bad because Sonic's design was bad.
Right.
But actually, the filmmakers did something unexpected. They delayed this film for 3 months so they could go back and fix it.
Right.
And to rant about like the animation industry for a second, I don't know if that was something that forced the artists into crunch or if that was enough time. I really don't. But I am glad that they at least delayed it instead of just making underpaid artists work their asses off because the director came up with a bad design.
Right, yeah.
And I'm especially glad that they didn't do the thing that Cats did, where the director's design was horrible, and even though the artist did as good as they could, it looked horrible, and then when the trailer came out, they were just like, well, everyone hates it, this is going to be bad, so let's pay the animators even less so our film is even worse, and then let's have our actors go on stage at the Oscars and joke about how shitty our underpaid animators are, as opposed to, you know, the people who decided on the Uncanny Valley art style.
Mm-hmm.
But this film was delayed. It came out this year with a much more game-accurate Sonic design that works so much better.
Sometime after the first trailer came out and the initial wave of hatred that came with this design, the director himself took to Twitter and he said, "We've listened to your criticisms and we are going to take that to heart and we're going to redesign Sonic, take the time, take the money to redesign Sonic the Hedgehog, to make it the best possible version of him we could be." And honestly, at that point for me, that just went to show, okay, this movie's probably going to be trash anyway, but at least the filmmakers are trying. At least they're putting up enough effort to make the best possible film they can. Not just Sonic the Hedgehog's design. I feel like the underrated part about the whole marketing campaign for this movie is just the editing of the trailers was so much better. Like in the first trailer, the jokes were horrendously unfunny. The song choice was bizarrely incorrect, in addition to Sonic the Hedgehog's design. You watch the trailers that came after that with the redesign, the editing was so much better, the song choices were so much better, the jokes that were in the trailer were much better. It just, the whole trailers after the first one just made it out to be a much better film than what the original trailer did, beyond having a much better design for Sonic the Hedgehog.
That's enough talking about this film's initial really, really bad trailer. I feel like we should start getting into it. But before we do, I'm actually curious. I think I know the answer to this, but Riley, are you a Sonic the Hedgehog fan?
I'm a fan of the YouTube fan film series Sonic for Hire, but Sonic the Hedgehog, he's okay. Like, I don't have too much attachment to him. I was always like a Super Mario kid growing up. I don't have much attachment to Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't dislike him. I like the idea of him, but in terms of the franchise, I'm pretty indifferent to it.
I am also not a big Sonic guy. Only Sonic game I've ever played is Sonic Colors. I'm a big Mario guy. Yeah. I got into Mario after Sega imploded, but I am a big Mario guy and like Mario games more than Sonic games. I do know a lot about Sonic from just watching people play the games and its impact on pop culture.
Right, so you and I...
We aren't Sonic experts.
Yeah, you and I don't really have much emotional connection to the franchise, so we're going into this being pretty unbiased.
Well, we aren't going into it completely unbiased. You don't go into any film that you've heard of unbiased.
Right. Very true. Very true. Less biased than we would be.
It's interesting. I think the god-awful trailer kind of helped this movie because it set the bar so low, and this film was so much better than you initially would have thought.
And like you said, that's a low bar, but still, this film is much better. It's much different every way, or most ways, than what the original trailer portrayed it as.
Let's get into it. Let's real quick recap the film. We open, well, there's like a cold open, and then it does the how we got here back up thing, which is a bit cliche.
Of course.
But at the start of the film, we actually get a backstory for Sonic the Hedgehog, which they never did in the games. We see Sonic as a little kid in like this other world, just speeding around it. And I'd like to say the absolute best scene in this film is just like the first 30 seconds of like Sonic's backstory of him in this beautiful, intricate, game-accurate world, just speeding through it. I understand why this film takes place on Earth, and an argument could be made that it's probably better that it takes place on Earth. But if they make a sequel to this, I hope we get more of those beautiful video game accurate locations, because that was the best 30 seconds of the film. It was just, mwah, kiss noise.
And we can go into that more later on, but in terms of the summary for this film, it opens up, like Casey said, with Sonic the Hedgehog running through the streets of San Francisco, being chased by Dr. Robotnik on a giant airplane helicopter device. Then it cuts back to Sonic's youth, where he's running through Green Hill Zone, and he visits his maternal figure, teacher, an owl, whom I am not aware of existing in the games.
She does not. She is a new character.
Meanwhile, Sonic the Hedgehog is being hunted down by the Echidna tribe for his speedster powers. The Echidna tribe is where Knuckles comes from.
Yeah.
In order to protect him from the Echidna tribe, the owl takes one of the magical rings, opens a portal to the other side of the universe, throws him through the portal, and sacrifices herself to save Sonic the Hedgehog. He finds himself stuck on Earth for the next 10 years, jumps 10 years ahead. He's made a life for himself. He loves comic books, loves hanging out in his cave. He loves stalking his favorite human beings, the Donut Lord and the Pretzel Lady.
James Marsden's character, Tom Wachowski, and Tika Sumpter's character, his wife, Maddie Wachowski's, respectively.
Right. James Marsden plays a police officer in Green Hill, Montana. He is wanting to move to San Francisco to become a San Francisco police officer and finally prove that he can make it in the big leagues.
And at the start of this film, we get a good grasp on who Sonic is as a character. And I think it's some of the best parts of this movie, that Sonic is just, he's this young kid. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure he's 15. He, reads comic books. He plays baseball by himself. He goofs off and steals food. And while he's goofing off, we see him play baseball by himself at night, and it's really nice. Him, using his super speed to be all the positions. But then he realizes he's all alone and has an angst explosion and creates an EMP that takes out a quarter of the U.S. and probably killed a bunch of people.
Probably.
Just saying.
Yeah, probably.
And that gets the attention of the U.S. government, who sends in a scientist by the name of Ivo Robotnik, played by Jim Carrey, who's acting again, apparently, and being his Jim Carreyest self.
Right.
This scientist, played by Jim Carrey, comes to Green Hills to investigate, and he discovers Sonic.
And then throughout the rest of the story, we find it's a on-the-road, buddy cop style film between James Marsden and Sonic the Hedgehog, where they're on the run from the government, they're on the run from Dr. Robotnik, on their way to San Francisco to find Sonic's lost rings, because he tried to open a portal away from Earth, but he accidentally opened it to San Francisco, and he dropped his bag of magic teleportation rings in there, so now they have to make the trip to San Francisco in order to find Sonic's rings, and thus the adventure ensues.
Ultimately, Sonic gets into a big fight with Dr. Eggman at the end. He ends up defeating Eggman, kicking him to another planet, and Sonic, with his new friend, the cop Tom Wachowski, finally has a home and friends and lives happily ever after. And that's the film.
Where would you like to start? You want to start right at the beginning? Because there is a lot to unpack about this, I do think.
The beginning is a good place to start because it's really interesting that they give Sonic a backstory and like a dead mom. Because again, they've never done that in the games. And I don't actually mind it. I mean, it's a bit cliche, Sonic's backstory of being hunted for his power and having to hide, but it is what the film is about, and I do like the idea of Sonic, despite being this happy-go-lucky, friendly guy, actually being lonely, and his ultimate goal just being to have friends. Although, I will say, the opening scene with, like, Sonic and his mom, the owl, I believe her name was Longclaw, that was a bit too short for my taste. It was, like, 3 minutes. Yeah. Like, I feel like it could have gone a bit longer. Give us some cute scenes of Sonic with his mom.
Right.
Like just being a kid before his mother is murdered in front of him.
It was meant to be this huge catalyst for Sonic's motivation and his story. And honestly, I really didn't care much for Longclaw. I didn't care much for her. Not because she was a bad character or I didn't understand it. It's just she's in it for like literally 60 seconds. It's not enough. And here's what I'm going to say. While I did find enjoyment in this film, and it's so much better than it could have been, I do think the trope of they find a portal and come to our world is one of the dumbest things mainstream Hollywood has come up with and repeatedly done with nostalgic properties over the last several years. Several decades, even. Like, you have so much story and lore and history. You have, like, 30 years worth of games? 30 plus years worth of history and lore and all that in the Sonic the Hedgehog universe, in the story, in the games, in the comics, all that. You have so much lore in there. But let's take him out of that, away from all of that, and put him in no one gives a shitsville, Montana. Like, what? Sonic has never once been in Montana. Why would you make a film, an adaptation of him, where it's taking place not only in the human world, but in Montana?
To be fair, the Sonic the Hedgehog series does have a weird relationship with the real world. There are other examples, like some of the cartoons about Sonic being transported to the real world. And some of the more modern games just kind of take place in the real world, and there are like a handful of humans and like human cities, but the main plot is always around anthropomorphic, really fast animals.
Right. It takes place in a fantastical world. Why do you need to set it in the real world?
Yeah, I get the vibes of the Michael Bay Transformers movies. I believe the term for it I've heard is human-focused adaptation, where they add in this normal human focus character for the audience to work through who isn't super interesting.
And if you're gonna make a Sonic the Hedgehog film, why do you need another character to be the main focus? People have fallen in love with Sonic the Hedgehog for decades. You heard the public outcry when the first trailer came out. People were devastated when they saw this design. And they're just going to take that character that people have so much attachment to, and they're going to make him a secondary character in his own film. Then he's not even going to be in his own world, in his own story. So I just think that while I do think this film, for the most part, does work, I just think that in principle, the idea of coming through a portal to our world just does not work. It's stupid. It's overdone. The Smurfs movies knew to stop doing that. They did it for the first two shitty movies. Then by the third animated one, they're like, let's make a Smurfs movie it's actually like a good Smurfs movie. And I haven't seen it, but, I've heard it's decent.
I feel like this is a good segue into, let's talk about this film's deuterologist, James Marsden's character. What was your thoughts on that character? I mean, besides the concept of human-focused adaptations are kind of dumb, what is your opinion on James Marsden in this film?
I thought he was fine for what he did. He's a likable guy, and his wife, Maddie, played by Tika Sumpter, they're both fine for what they are. It's just Sonic the Hedgehog is by far the most interesting part of this film. Seeing him go super speed and having him interact with things. Like, honestly, I think the opening where he's talking about his cave, reading comic books super fast, playing ping pong by himself, playing baseball by himself, all of that. He's a very exciting, dynamic, and fun character. And I think that, yes, for some reason they felt like they needed a human character to relate to. And I personally didn't feel too much about him. He was okay. James Marsden did him all right. I thought he was fine.
I didn't really personally care too much about his personal, mission. I want to be a hero cop and save people. I didn't really get too much into that. Although, I didn't actually mind Tom Wachowski as much as I thought I would. He does serve a role in the film as the straight man for Sonic to bounce off with. And he isn't the most interesting character, but he does work as a good character for Sonic to bounce off with. And he even gets a few funny moments, like the child in the bag moment, which might be the funniest scene in the whole movie.
Honestly, I didn't feel too much for any of the characters. I did like Sonic, it's just when they were in trouble, I didn't really feel too much for them.
I just realized, we've talked around it, but we haven't given our thoughts on Sonic. What is your opinion on Sonic?
Well, I felt this portrayal was very interesting because, from what I understand of Sonic the Hedgehog in the games and in the comics, he's a bit more egotistical, a bit more snarky, very cool. But in this story, he's very sweet, very innocent, a bit more happy-go-lucky.
He's a lot more of a kid in this than he is in the games.
I thought in terms of an adaptation, it does work. I feel like I did kind of feel sad for him. And there were a few sad moments. I was like, okay, I get what you're going through, and that does suck. But knowing what I know about Sonic the Hedgehog in the games, it's an interesting change.
It feels like, in addition to making him more of a kid, which I don't actually mind, they played up his quirks a lot, and it's not 100% like he is in the games, but I do think they got the spirit of it. The thing about Sonic is, at least to me, he's always come across as this character who's just laid back, having fun, not really taking anything seriously. Because why would he? He's killed gods before, he's an insanely powerful character, and he just treats everything like a game. They do think they got Sonic not taking things too seriously and in addition, it's just fun watching him with super speed just goof around and have fun.
I thought the scenes where he's going at super speed were very fun, very interesting, very imaginative, and I thought they were very well directed too. Those, I think, were some of my favorite parts, especially when he's in the bar and he's messing with everybody. It's pretty much what they did with Quicksilver in X-Men Days of Future Past, but it's more fun, And there's more scenes than that.
I will say, that is what this film does best. Ben Schwartz's portrayal of Sonic is just a fun character who you can get a nice popcorn flick out of.
Yeah, I thought he was a good choice for Sonic.
And speaking of characters who are fun, let's talk about Jim Carrey.
Here's the thing about Jim Carrey. I love the guy. I think he's hilarious. And the good thing about him is that when he does a comedy and he's really having a good time, we're all having a good time. He just gets on camera and just has a blast. And it's fun watching that. And having him play a super smart, psychopathic cartoon supervillain was really fun, and I did appreciate that. I thought he did a very good job.
In this film, he's just being Jim Carrey. Yeah. In most Jim Carrey films, he's being Jim Carrey, but it actually kind of works in this because Dr. Eggman, who is this arrogant, over-the-top mad scientist who shouts half his lines and is constantly shown up by a 3-foot-tall hedgehog, is the type of character who brings that Jim Carrey energy.
It's good to see him coming back to acting because he had a string of not-so-good movies towards the early to mid 2010s. He had some personal tragedy in his life, and he produced some TV shows for a little while. He acted in a TV show for a little bit, but it's really nice him coming back to the big screen, and I'm glad that this one did work out, because when the first trailer came out, I go, dude, Jim Carrey, I love you, my guy, but you clearly picked a terrible movie. And I really want this to succeed, but it turned out well, and I thought he did a great job in a decent movie.
Of course, they have that thing where gotta make the bad guy have a more grounded design in the adaptation. Right. But at least they gave him the mustache, and in the climax they gave him the goggles and red suit, and in the end credits scene, he finally goes bald and is accurate.
What did you think of the CGI in this?
I thought it worked. The original trailer and design for Sonic was going for, realism. And in this, it does not go for realism. I'd almost compare it to Roger Rabbit, where the character does not fit with the art style of the world, but he's still part of it. Like, part of the reason Roger Rabbit is such a praised film is how meticulous they were with lighting and making it feel like even though Roger was a cartoon character, he was part of this world. Sonic the Hedgehog is a cartoon character in this world, but he's a cartoon character who has good CG, and it just fits with the style of the film as this fun popcorn flick that this over-the-top cartoon character is hanging out in this world, dicking around.
There were moments where I was like just looking at Sonic and I'm like, that CGI doesn't look too great, but it works. Like you said, it works as a live-action cartoon, and honestly, that's why I feel the redesign in principle works so much better, because this film, it's a solid kids movie. Things happen, you gotta extend your disbelief.
To be honest, we're two dudes in our 20s who are complaining about a PG-rated movie.
Exactly. And we're not even really complaining about it, but we're complaining about the trailer.
Half of my complaints about this film can be excused with, yeah, but this movie was made for 10-year-olds.
Overall, I would say it is a solid kids movie. It worked as a cartoon. Like, that's how it worked best. Not just the fact that Sonic the Hedgehog is in it, but like the acting, the writing, the directing, all of it like lends itself to being like a Saturday morning cartoon in a live-action big blockbuster film adaptation. The original design, making Sonic look as realistic as possible, it just completely betrays the rest of it. And I think from that perspective, it would have ruined it. Sonic works best in this film because it's a live-action cartoon. So he should look like a cartoon. But if he looked like this realistic, anthropomorphized hedgehog monstrosity, it would have been even worse because it would have betrayed the tone of the film as opposed to just being a nightmare to look at. One thing that kind of bugged me throughout the film is a nitpick. It's the fact that they always refer to Sonic as an alien, which in concept I don't suppose is a bad idea. It's just the idea of Sonic the Hedgehog being an alien is just so weird and so bizarre to me.
Although, to be fair, is it weirder than in the games where he's from Earth, he just looks like that?
No, but no. But, I don't know, it was just something so weird. Like, Tom was like, at one point, at the end, I believe it was, he goes, "This alien is my friend," and I was just like, oh, right, yeah, he's an alien. Because she didn't say you're going to a different universe. You're going to a different side of the universe.
Speaking of that scene, oh god, that scene is cheesy. At the end of the movie, Sonic gets, like, blown up by Robotnik, and it looks like he's dead. And Robotnik's like, "Why are you sad? He was an alien!" Who I've talked to, and know he has human-level intelligence, but whatever. Right. And James Marsden just walks out and shouts, "He knew more about being human than you! This was his home, and he was my friend!" And then Sonic comes back to life and kicks Robotnik's ass.
Yeah, it was very cheesy. Again, a kid's movie. You kind of got to extend your disbelief and accept some stuff. One thing I did think was interesting, Sonic defeats Eggman by hitting his machine multiple times, like you would in a Sonic the Hedgehog game.
Yes, they actually do that a few times. Like, there are a couple scenes where Sonic, like, rolls up in a ball and gets, like, chucked at stuff. And I like that.
Yeah.
It's a nice nod to the games. This movie had a lot of nods to the games, even though it changed a lot of things.
Right. Speaking of nods to the games, the scene where Sonic gets blown from the roof of the skyscraper, when he gets hit, the bag of magical rings explodes. He loses all of his rings like he does in the games.
Oh, crap, I did. Yeah, you're right. That is it.
Yeah.
Also, it's weird that they make rings like wormholes instead of whatever the heck they are in the games. The games aren't really clear on that, but it's fine. While we're on the topic of nitpicks, one thing that I wonder if you picked up on, there sure was a lot of product placement in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's a scene where Tom's wife is like, "I found us this apartment on Zillow. Show computer screen with Zillow."
Mm-hmm. Hey, you gotta pay for the budget somehow. My favorite bit of product placement in this film is Olive Garden.
Oh, God.
From what I recall, there's 2 instances where there's Olive Garden product placement. The first one, again, it's like that. It's like the Zillow one where it's like, okay, roll your eyes, whatever. But the second one, legitimately, I laughed out loud because it was so clever. At the beginning of the film, he's like, hey, you want to go to Olive Garden or whatever. They mention Olive Garden, he goes, yeah.
Where you're there, your
right,
family.
Exactly. And at the end of the film, like, you forget all about it. And at the end of the film, the military guys who sent Robotnik to hunt down Sonic, they showed up to the house, and they were like, hey, in order to keep you guys quiet, here, take this token of appreciation for your silence. And they open it up, and it's a fucking Olive Garden gift card for $50. And it was so funny.
And I don't know what's more ridiculous. The idea that they had those product placement scenes, or the fact that, according to the director, they weren't paid anything by Olive Garden. He just thinks that Olive Garden is funny.
I mean, I thought it was funny. One thing, speaking of product placement, there was actually supposed to be more product placement. In the original trailer, Sonic, I don't remember the brand. It was either Nike or Puma. It was a shoe brand, athletic shoe brand.
I think I know what you're talking about. In the original trailer, he very clearly is wearing Nike shoes, yes. But that was cut
because
out.
The reaction of the first trailer.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you look carefully, they don't draw focus to it, but he's still wearing Pumas.
Pumas, I think that was it, actually. Yeah, like the brand actually pulled out of the deal because they didn't want to have to deal with the negative fan reaction. So they had to make Sonic just wear Sonic the Hedgehog's normal red shoes.
Setting aside minor complaints, you know what's my biggest complaint about this movie? And again, it's because it's a kid's movie. This movie doesn't know how to show, not tell.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, for instance, there's a scene, like, where we're getting introduced to Tom and his wife, whose name I keep forgetting. His wife is...
Maddie.
His wife, Maddie. Yes, that is her name. There's a scene where they just spell out all of this, like, hello, we are married, you want to be a hero cop, so you're moving to San Francisco, also I am a vet, haha, dialogue is hard. And that one dumb exposition scene would be fine, it's just that, and part of it's because he talks a lot, but Sonic constantly just explains his emotions to the audience.
Right.
And it's annoying. Like, for instance, you see Sonic play a baseball game by himself, and then he just looks there, and he's sad, and, like, he looks out, and there's no one else there, and then he says, I am so lonely because I am all alone. I sure wish I had friends.
A lot of people are going to blow that off as like, oh, whatever, it's just a kid's movie, accept it. It's like, no, there's tons of kids' movies that don't literally turn to the camera and say, this is what's happening throughout the entire film. There's loads of kids' films that don't do that.
It's fine that it's bad writing because it's for kids. That is insulting to children.
Right.
It's not just insulting to children, it's bad. The things children consume help shape who they are, and having works that allow them to understand emotions from context is good for them becoming rounded adults. And we're overblowing stuff, but it is dumb and cheesy and takes you out of the film.
The scene at the bar, though it ended in a fun climax, I was kind of bored during it. I was like, okay, pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
I was waiting for it to be done, and I feel like they were intending on it being like this big scene. I have a feeling they were planning on it being a much more important scene than it actually ended up being. And also, I thought it was so weird that Sonic is just there. And he explains it away as like, this is some crazy guy wearing a suit. And it's like, oh yeah, everyone in the bar just accepts that as truth now, that a giant hedgehog man is walking around.
It would be weird, but I kind of think it would have been interesting if they just did the game approach where the main character is a 3-foot-tall blue hedgehog who can talk, and nobody thinks it's weird.
That would have been kind of bizarre to see.
Speaking of bizarre, and a lot of films make this mistake, but they forgot how time works in the final battle where Sonic's fighting Eggman in the middle of the afternoon, and then he teleports to Paris, and then to Egypt, then China, and then he gets back to Montana, and it's like 10 p.m. Either he fought Eggman for 12 hours, or the filmmakers forgot what time it was 5 minutes ago.
It's just little stuff like that here and there. They just forgot about. And it's like, well, how could you forget about something like that? And I feel like that's more so on the writing, because it's like, oh, they just written the script, oh yeah, at night. And he fights him even though it was daytime, like literally a second ago. There's another thing like that. Sonic is very in tune with pop culture references. Like, he knows what flossing is. He knows all this stuff, but he doesn't know what a bucket list is.
Yeah.
He's never heard of San Francisco. Like, Sonic the Hedgehog as a character is very in tune with pop culture. They do adapt that pretty well in this film, but like, then he'll conveniently not know what certain stuff is. Like, oh, what's that? He'll be ignorant. Conveniently ignorant, conveniently in tune.
And speaking of flossing, this film, it never fully goes into it, which I'm thankful, but this film, at several points, veers very close to, hey, check it, we know memes, guys. You can see Sonic flossing in a few scenes very briefly. At one point, he pretends to be a Twitch streamer to make fun of Eggman. There's a very dumb scene where Eggman's assistant slash minion slash boyfriend question mark Agent Stone says, "Ya basic." Also, one thing I did like, we see a drawing of Sonic, a character made at one point, and it's the Sonic the Hedgehog meme.
That's the crazy guy, right? He drew that.
Who, like, shows up to the final battle with the chainsaw. And actually, the funniest moment in the film is when Sonic's, like, introducing everything. We get to see Sonic just messing around with this crazy old guy, which is kind of a dick move, but then again, that's Sonic. He's not evil, but he is a bit of a dick sometimes, and just does dumb shit for fun. By the way, we see this guy try and catch Sonic, and Sonic runs away, and the old man shouts, "I know you're real!" And Sonic shouts back, "No, I'm not."
Yeah, I did think it was a little strange that they, like, oh yeah, this is the Donut Lord, and then this is the Pretzel Lady. And it's like, they're like legitimately really important to the story, but then it introduces this crazy Joe guy, and he's like only in 2 scenes for the rest of the film.
And Sonic actually knows his name, doesn't he?
Yeah, this is Crazy Joe, and then this is Donut Lord, because he talks to the donuts. This hasn't been confirmed, but a lot of fans are talking about this. You know why they call him the Donut Lord? Apart from the story they give in the film. Do you know why?
I mean, in the film, I assume it's just like, haha, cops like donuts, and Sonic steals donuts from him. But I have a feeling you're going to say that they were originally going to do a tie-in with, I don't know, Dunkin' Donuts?
No.
Oh.
If you look at the marketing material, some of it at least that has come out from this film, the studio was really, really forcing this to become a meme. As much of a meme as possible.
That's so much worse.
There's a poster of the film with Tom. It's a photo of him, and he's in his cop uniform. He's got his shades on. He's looking all cool. And on the side of it, it reads Donut Lord. But if you crop out the bottom enough, it looks like Nut Lord.
Oh god, you're right. That would happen.
That's the whole reason. That is the whole reason why they had him called Donut Lord, is because they wanted tweens on Reddit to be like, Nut Lord. It's just, you look at all this other promo material, like there's a bunch of photos of Jim Carrey as Robotnik, like just standing in awkward positions with his legs spread and his pelvis out. It's like, wow, you guys were really trying to force this, huh?
Yeah.
Speaking of trying to force stuff, I've had this thought for a while now. I'm going to go full conspiracy theory mode here. I don't think that the original Sonic the Hedgehog design in the first trailer, I don't think that they were ever intending on that being the design. See, I think what they did was they just CGI'd what they needed to for that trailer. They made it look like shit. They pushed it out. It got a negative reaction like they were hoping to, and because it got the negative reaction, they said, okay, we're actually going to make it how we wanted to make it, how we were always planning on making it. So they had more time and more money to make Sonic look accurate and make the best possible film they could, because Paramount is worth tens, if not hundreds of billion dollars. You're going to tell one of the biggest and oldest film studios in human history, those people are going to be like, oh, a couple people on the internet were bashing the look of our movie. They very well could have said, oh, well, we've sunk millions upon millions of dollars into this. we're not going to push it back 3 months and bankrupt a company, the company that CGI'd Sonic. We're not going to bankrupt them and delay our movie because a couple people on the internet.
No, we're going to do the Cats approach.
My point is, I think they just did that as a publicity stunt. They were never intending on that being the version of it. They just did it because, guess what? What was everybody talking about post that trailer coming out? How terrible this movie looks. And it blew up. It became this huge viral... It still is a meme. Everyone was talking about how this is going to be a horrible movie. That's free publicity at that point. So that's what I think. I don't think they were ever intending on making a film where that's the actual design. I think they just did that as a publicity stunt. And I will take my conspiracy theorist hat off now.
Riley, you gotta be careful. Don't reveal these secrets. They will execute you for that. 2 bullets to the back of the head, ruled a suicide. A note written in someone else's handwriting saying, watch Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It will have Tails in it.
Also, speaking of Tails, there's the post-credit scene. Tails somehow enters the portal in search of Sonic for some reason.
And I'm actually excited. The end credits scenes, which, assuming they do make a sequel to this movie, show A, introducing more Sonic characters, and B, finally going all in with Eggman's design, make me really excited for a sequel.
Because they teased the hell out of a sequel in this one. Like, a more accurate Robotnik, having Tails, bringing Sonic back to his world. They really teased the idea of a sequel. I feel if they make a sequel, they should forget Tom, forget Maddie, forget Green Hills, Montana, bring him back to the Sonic the Hedgehog world. Dr. Robotnik was able to find his way to that world. Robotnik creates a bunch of robots, he creates Metal Sonic, and he enslaves and imprisons the innocent forest critters, and Sonic and Tails have to rescue them. That's what the plot of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 should be.
So, the plot of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 should be the plot of Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Precisely. Why don't they just do that in the first place?
With Metal Sonic, who's from Sonic CD. But yeah, I could see that. Honestly, putting on our conspiracy what they're going to do in the sequel things, they're absolutely going to have Eggman either create Metal Sonic or Shadow the Hedgehog because he has Sonic's DNA and wants revenge on Sonic and will make an evil Sonic.
And they did kind of set up Knuckles, because the Echidna tribe was hunting him down.
Yeah, Knuckles is people.
Well, they didn't explain why the Echidnas were after him, so they could probably go into that.
I mean, because he got power.
Right, but they don't look exactly technologically advanced. No one in that world does. Why are they going after this child for his power?
Use magic to steal it. I don't know. Store it in the big emerald thingy.
They set up Knuckles, they set up a more accurate Robotnik, and here's the thing, Jim Carrey very rarely does sequels to his films. He's really only done it twice, I think.
Dumb and Dumber 2 and Ace Ventura 2, and both of those were considered much worse than the originals.
I didn't hate either of the sequels. I like them, but trust me, they're not as good as the originals, both of them. But, so the point is, Jim Carrey has been burned by sequels in the past. People are concerned of whether or not he's willing to even return as Eggman for Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and even if he does, who knows if he's going to come back for a third. What I've seen discussion on is if Jim Carrey's going to be like, no, I'm done, I don't want to do any more of these sequels, what villain are they going to do to replace him? One idea I had was, in the sequel, he makes Metal Sonic, and at the end of the day, he's defeated, he blows up, whatever, but before he dies, he was able to clone Shadow, and Shadow the Hedgehog is the villain of the next film.
You know who would have been a good Dr. Eggman if they didn't get Jim Carrey? Neil McDonough, who is in this film for like half a scene and barely gets a word in.
He's the general, right?
Yeah, I like Neil McDonough. He would have been a good Eggman. It's weird they played him up in the marketing so much if he was only in one scene.
Yeah, I feel like he as an actor hasn't really gotten too much. Because I do like him. I've seen some films with him, and I'm like, he's a good actor. It's just, it's weird that he's like in the Sonic the Hedgehog movie for half a scene, and he's called Basic at the end of it, and that's it. Funny thing that I saw throughout the film, Sonic, he's trying to open a portal to the Mushroom World.
And he says the Mushroom World is terrible.
Yep. Mushroom Man. The Mushroom Kingdom. Super Mario Brothers. Wait, what?
They show Sonic, A, reading Flash comics, and B, watching the Keanu Reeves movie Speed,
Yeah.
which I liked.
Yeah.
Sonic's introduction as teenage Sonic is him like saving a turtle from being hit by a car, and I do like that because like in the games he saves animals.
This guy I watched the movie with pointed this out. In the final battle with Eggman, Sonic siphons Eggman's ship's power and harnesses it for himself. That is an actual superpower Sonic has in the Archie comics, apparently.
I know Archie Comics is a very different portrayal of Sonic, but I haven't read them. I'm also pretty sure they, unlike this film or the games, actually explain Sonic's powers as him being like a living embodiment of chaos energy or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Archie's comic Sonic is even more ridiculously powerful than the game version, like
Right.
to the point of being basically a god. To quote Polygon's Brian David Gilbert, either Sonic is God or he could kill God, and I do not care if there's a difference, yada yada yada.
Another thing that I know a little bit of history about, or a little backstory into. Alright, so in this film, Eggman gets one of Sonic's quills. That's where he gets all his power to challenge Sonic. In the early draft of the script, that was going to originally be a Chaos Emerald, which in the games is basically, if you collect all the Chaos Emeralds, you're basically become God. Sonic goes Super Saiyan, and it's basically Dr. Eggman wants them all because he wants ultimate power. That almost was the central focus of this film, but they decided that it didn't fit as well, and they went with one of Sonic's quills instead. The way this film ends basically is the show American Dad.
Ah, shit, you're right.
There's a man who works for the government, and he has an alien living in the attic, and they can't know that he's there, otherwise they'll hunt him down, and yada yada yada. It's basically American Dad, if you think about it.
I mean, the director did say that he was inspired by Ted for some of Sonic's visual design, so I mean, that's not far-fetched. So Riley, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you rate Sonic the Hedgehog?
I thought it was a solid kids film. Gotta expend your disbelief throughout some points. It's a fun watch. It's nowhere near as bad as it could have been, or as bad as the first trailer made it out to be. It's a lot of fun, some few plot holes, a few misguided things happening. I'm probably going to give it like a 6.5 out of 10. It's a fine movie, it's good, it's fun, watch it with the whole family, but don't expect too much out of it, I suppose.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I go 7.5, and I'm usually a bit higher than you. It's not high cinema by any means. It's not a masterpiece. It's a bit cliche. But what it is a fun, entertaining popcorn flick with a protagonist and a villain that just bounce off each other great.
Yeah.
That, compared to other video game movie adaptations, is a masterpiece.
I think we should probably, because you and I have a pretty different scale for how we rate movies, I just wanted to take this moment to explain my grade. I rate it by the quality of the filmmaking at hand, by my standards. So it's like 10 is perfect, 9 is great, 7 is good, 5 is okay, 3 is bad, 1 is terrible, 0 is I hated every second of watching this. That's my grade. You rate a bit different than I do. That's my explanation.
I mean, I'm not too different. I only give 10s to masterpieces and 9s to things that are really good. An 8 for me is good, 7 is okay, 6 is kind of bad, and like a complete failure of a film like Captain America from the 90s, I would only give a 3. We've explained this.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's fine.
Go watch the episode about Captain America to hear our thoughts on that. I would be open to watching a sequel. I'm hoping that they drop the human characters. Although I do think at this point it would be a little bit challenging to do so because they are so important to his character and to his story at this point.
Just don't focus on them as
Right,
much.
yeah.
Like, have like Sonic living with them, and then he finds a new friend and maybe decides to leave home at the end.
I would like them to spend most of it in the Sonic the Hedgehog world with Tails and Amy and maybe even Knuckles and just have it be Sonic the Hedgehog's story that we all know and love, as opposed to making up a whole new original story with humanoid characters that we don't give a shit about, and a story that Sonic the Hedgehog isn't known for. I think for the sequel, they should go a more faithful adaptation. If Jim Carrey is willing to return, I'd love to see a game-accurate version of it, Dr. Eggman. If he's not willing to return for the third installment, and if it makes it to a third installment, I think that I would not at all be against them just making the film entirely like a 3D CGI animated film with no human characters and just CGI anthropomorphic animals on Sonic's world. So,
and I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Riley, where can they find you?
You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at Riley James Thorpe. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at Riley Thorpe.
You can find me on Twitter at Jarmes Casey, JarmesCasey. Also check out The First Mag Train Out of Cleveland and Other Short Stories, available now on Amazon. It's a collection of sci-fi short stories I wrote. We'll be back next Monday, assuming we don't get trapped on a horrible mushroom planet for the rest of eternity. Next episode, we'll be concluding our discussion on how we would make superhero movies focused on villains, this time doing DC villains. As always, I'm Casey Jarmes.
And I'm Riley Thorpe.
And hey, it's just a movie. Don't lose your head about it, especially not to a ladder.